When something slips away from you, when it's gone, it can feel like the world has been pulled out from under your feet. That moment is painful, yes, but it's also revelatory. It shows you how tightly you were holding on to something impermanent, how invested you were in the fragile, transient nature of life. Loss demands that you confront a difficult truth. The world doesn't stop moving just because you're not ready for it to change. And that's brutal. But it's also the very thing that makes life so extraordinary. It's the movement, the flux, the fact that nothing is guaranteed. That's where the vitality of existence lies. There's no undoing the past, and pretending otherwise is a trap that will shackle you to resentment and regret. What was. What matters now is what you do with the pieces. Will you allow the weight of what's gone to anchor you in despair? Or will you use it as fuel to build something stronger, something truer, something more resilient? When the world collapses in on you, there's an opportunity buried in the rubble. It's an invitation to reevaluate, to adapt, to aim higher. Maybe what's gone was never meant to stay. Maybe it was holding you back from a future you didn't even know was possible. You don't have to pretend that losing something isn't painful. It is. But you also don't have to let that pain dictate who you are. The world is a tough place, and loss is part of the deal, but so is growth, so is courage, so is the capacity to stand up straight, face the chaos, and take one step forward and another and another. You may not know exactly where you're going, but you're moving. That's what counts. Every time you pick yourself up after losing something, you become a little stronger, a little wiser, a little more capable. You can let the fact that it's gone destroy you, or you can use it to become the kind of person who can withstand even greater storms. That choice, as hard as it might be, is always yours to make. When you lose something, whether it's a person, an opportunity, or a dream, it's as though the world shifts beneath your feet. That sense of loss, that hollow ache, is a deeply human experience, and it hurts because it matters. It signals that what you lost was significant to you. But here's the thing, that pain, as unbearable as it might feel in the moment, is also a profound teacher. It forces you to stop, to take stock, and to confront truths about yourself and the nature of life that you might otherwise avoid. Loss has a way of stripping away the illusions we build around permanence. We tend to hold on tightly to what we have, believing it will last forever. And when it doesn't, we're shaken to our core. That shaking, that breaking apart of our expectations is painful, yes, but it's also where the lessons lie. It reveals the fragility of the things we cling to, showing us that much of what we treasure is temporary, despite our best efforts to secure it. And yet, it's precisely because things are fleeting that they hold meaning. The intensity of the pain you feel is a reflection of the depth of your connection, your commitment, and your love. To lose is to realize how much something mattered to you, and in that realization, there's an invitation not to dwell on what's gone, but to honor it by learning from it. What did it teach you? What did it give you? How can you carry that forward? Loss forces you to confront these questions, and in doing so, it has the potential to reshape you in ways you never thought possible. This isn't to say that the lessons come easily or quickly. Often they emerge only after you've sat with the discomfort, after you've allowed yourself to feel the full weight of what's happened. But once you do, once you stop fighting the reality of the loss and begin to truly engage with it, you start to see how much it has to teach you. It's not just about what's gone, it's about what remains and what's waiting to be discovered. The pain of loss is transformative if you're willing to let it be, turning what feels like an end into the foundation for a new beginning. Life is in constant motion, and nothing, not even the most cherished thing, stays the same forever. This reality can be unsettling, even terrifying, because we crave stability and predictability. But the truth is, it's this very impermanence that gives life its vitality. Imagine a world where nothing ever changed, where the seasons didn't shift, where the people you loved remained exactly as they were, and where every day was indistinguishable from the last. Such a world, while free of loss, would also be free of growth, of renewal, of meaning. It's the fact that things change, that they move, that they end, which gives them significance in the first place. When you lose something, it's easy to focus on the disruption, on how the world has taken something from you. But step back for a moment and consider that same world that takes away also gives. It's the same world that brought you that person, that opportunity. that moment you cherished. The ebb and flow of life, the constant movement, it's not a mistake or a cruel joke. It's the very nature of existence. And within that nature lies its beauty, its unpredictability, its depth. Loss reminds you that life doesn't revolve around your plans or expectations. The world is far bigger and far more intricate than we can comprehend, and it doesn't stop moving because we're not ready for it to change. There's something liberating in that realization, even if it feels harsh at first. It means that the possibilities are endless, that what's gone today could make room for something new tomorrow. It means that the same impermanence that takes away also creates over and over again in ways we can't always predict or control. To see life as a constant flow is to embrace its dynamism, its energy. Every moment, every relationship, every opportunity exists within that flow. And while the fact that things don't last forever can feel like a loss, it's also a gift. It pushes you to savor the present, to fully engage with the people and experiences that surround you, knowing they won't always be there. It urges you to grow, to adapt, to keep moving forward, because life itself never stops moving. It's in that motion that life becomes real, vibrant, and full of possibility. You can't change the past, no matter how much you wish you could. This is a truth that many resist, clinging to memories or moments, replaying them in their minds, wishing they had made different choices or that events had unfolded another way. But the reality is this: what has happened, it's carved into the timeline of your life, and no amount of wishing, regretting, or hoping can alter it. This might seem harsh, but it's also freeing if you let it be. Trying to undo the past is like trying to hold back the tide with your bare hands. It's an exhausting, impossible task that leaves you stuck in a cycle of frustration and despair. You replay the same scenes, relive the same pain, and in doing so, you deny yourself the opportunity to step into the present. The more energy you spend fighting what's already done, the less energy you have for what comes next. That's the real tragedy of regret, not just that you feel the pain of the past, but that it prevents you from building the future. This isn't about dismissing the past or pretending it doesn't matter. It does matter deeply. The past shapes who you are. It's a part of your story. But there's a difference between acknowledging the past and living in it. One allows you to grow, the other traps you. To truly move forward, you have to accept that what's done is done, and that it's up to you to decide what to do with what remains. You can't rewrite history, but you can learn from it. Every mistake, every loss, every regret holds a lesson if you're willing to look for it. Maybe it's a lesson about the choices you make, about what you value, or about how to handle yourself when life doesn't go as planned. Whatever it is, that lesson is the gift the past offers you. Take it, learn from it, and let it guide you forward. Living in regret is a refusal to accept reality, and that refusal only leads to more suffering. When you let go of the idea that the past can be changed, you free yourself to focus on what can be changed: the present, the choices you make today, and the path you choose to walk tomorrow. It's not about forgetting the past, it's about letting it inform you without letting it define you. The power lies not in altering what's gone, but in deciding how to respond to it now. When something important is taken from you, it's natural to feel like the world has conspired against you. The immediate response to loss is often one of grief, anger, or even despair. It's hard to see beyond what's missing, beyond the emptiness left behind. But hidden within that emptiness is a question: what now? It's not just a question of survival, but one of transformation. What will you do with this? How will you shape your life in the space that loss has created? Because as much as loss takes, it also leaves behind something: invaluable possibility. Every time you lose something, you're faced with a crossroads. You can fixate on the void, on what's no longer there, or you can begin to notice the opportunities that have quietly emerged in its place. What's gone might have been holding you in place, tethering you to a version of yourself or your life that you'd outgrown without even realizing it. Sometimes, the weight of what you were holding on to was keeping your hands too full to grasp something new. And when it's gone, suddenly your hands are empty, and the potential to reach for something different, something greater, becomes real. This doesn't mean that what you lost didn't matter or that the pain isn't valid. It absolutely is. But loss also has a way of stripping away the unnecessary, of clearing the path so you can see what truly matters. Maybe it's an opportunity to rebuild with more intention, to pursue something you've been too afraid to chase, or to step into a version of yourself that you were too comfortable to embrace before. The absence of what was can be the catalyst for discovering what could be. Think of it this way: when a storm tears down a tree, it feels like devastation. But in the clearing, light reaches the ground in ways it never could before. New growth begins, unexpected and vibrant. That's what loss can do. It can clear the space for something new to take root, something you might never have noticed while you were holding on to what was. To see loss as an opportunity doesn't mean denying its pain. It means refusing to let that pain define the rest of your story. It's a reminder that endings are not final, they're transitions, they're invitations to step forward, to adapt, and to discover possibilities you couldn't see before. What's gone may feel irreplaceable, but what lies ahead could be transformative in ways you never imagined. The key is to look for it, to trust that, even in the darkest moments, there is room for light to find its way in. When you're in the depths of loss, pain can feel like a permanent state, a weight so heavy it's hard to imagine ever moving past it. It's tempting to let that pain define you, to weave it into the very fabric of who you are, as if your identity is now bound to what you've lost. But that's not true. Pain is part of the story, not the whole story. It's a chapter, not the book. And while it demands to be felt, it doesn't have to be the architect of your future. The human experience is full of suffering that's undeniable, but it's also full of resilience, of moments where people rise above their circumstances and find strength they didn't know they had. Pain, as consuming as it can be, is a temporary state. It's your body, your mind, your spirit processing what's happened, trying to make sense of a world that's been thrown into chaos. It's natural to feel overwhelmed, to think, this is who I am now, a person defined by this loss. But you are so much more than that. Pain is an experience you have. It is not your essence. Letting pain dictate your life is like giving up the driver's seat and letting chaos take the wheel. It may seem easier at first to surrender to it, to let it steer you into bitterness, despair, or apathy. But the cost is immense. You lose sight of what's possible, of the opportunities still ahead, of the person you can become. Pain might demand your attention, but it doesn't deserve your control. You have the power to shape what comes next. You can take that pain and let it harden you, closing you off from the world, or you can use it as a tool for growth. Pain has a strange way of clarifying what matters. It strips away pretense and forces you to confront the raw reality of life. In that clarity, there's a chance to rebuild, not as someone who is broken, but as someone who has been shaped by fire and come out stronger. This isn't about ignoring the pain or pretending it isn't there. It's about recognizing that it doesn't have the final say. You get to decide how you respond to it, how you carry it forward. Will it be a weight that drags you down, or will it be the fuel that pushes you to rise? That choice, difficult as it might be, is yours. And in making that choice, you reclaim your life, proving that while pain might touch you, it doesn't own you. When you've been knocked down by loss, the idea of standing back up can feel insurmountable. The weight of what's happened, the sheer force of grief or failure, can make the ground beneath you seem like the safest place to stay. But every time you choose to rise, no matter how slowly or unsteadily, you become a little stronger. Each attempt, each moment of effort builds resilience in ways you may not notice right away, but that will shape you profoundly over time. Resilience isn't something you're born with. It's something you cultivate. It's forged in those moments when you feel like you've hit rock bottom, yet decide to take one small step forward anyway. When you confront loss or adversity, it's easy to feel powerless, as though life has stripped you of all agency. But the act of standing up, even when the odds feel stale stacked against you, is a reclaiming of that power. It's a reminder that while you can't control what happens to you, you can always control how you respond. Every time you pick yourself up, you teach yourself something vital that you are capable of enduring. That capability doesn't come from avoiding pain or pretending it doesn't exist. It comes from walking through it, from letting it teach you what you're made of. Pain and loss may shake your foundation, but they also reveal its strength. And with every instance of resilience, that foundation becomes sturdier, better equipped to weather the next storm. This process is not linear. There will be days when getting up feels impossible, when the progress you thought you made seems to vanish. But even in those moments, the effort matters. Resilience is built not in grand gestures, but in the quiet, persistent choice to try again, to take another step, to move forward, even when every part of you wants to give up. What's remarkable is how this strength accumulates over time. The first time you face a devastating loss, it may feel like the end of the world. But as you confront hardship after hardship and continue to rise, you start to notice a change. You're not the same person you were before. You've grown tougher, not in a way that makes you hardened or cold, but in a way that allows you to face life's challenges with more grace, more understanding, and more courage. This isn't about denying vulnerability or pretending you're invincible. It's about realizing that strength and vulnerability coexist. True resilience is knowing you can be hurt and still rise, that you can lose and still continue, that you can fall and still rebuild. Every time you stand back up, you're proving to yourself and to the world that nothing, not loss, not failure, not pain can truly break you. It can shape you, yes, but it cannot define you unless you let it. When the world around you descends into chaos, when nothing feels certain, and when loss or failure shakes the very ground you stand on, it's natural to want to retreat. Fear whispers to you that standing still or turning back is safe or easier. But life doesn't allow for such stasis, whether you like it or not. Time moves forward, and so must you. Facing chaos requires something deep, something primal, a courage that refuses to be extinguished even in the darkest of moments. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's feeling the fear, acknowledging it, and stepping forward anyway. The world is unpredictable, filled with situations and outcomes that you cannot control. But what you can control is how you choose to meet that unpredictability. Do you shrink in the face of the unknown, or do you stand up, confront it, and push through, even when you have no guarantees? That's the essence of courage, not knowing what lies ahead, but moving forward all the same. Chaos often feels like the enemy, like something to be avoided at all costs, but it's also where transformation happens. Chaos breaks apart the familiar, the comfortable, the predictable. It's disorienting, even terrifying, but it's also an opportunity, a chance to rebuild, to redefine, to recreate. Without chaos, there's no growth, no progress, no becoming. To navigate it, though, you must muster the strength to take that first step, even when you're unsure of where it will lead. Facing chaos is not about having all the answers or knowing the exact path forward. It's about trusting in your ability to adapt, to learn, and to persevere. It's about realizing that while you may not be able to control everything, you can control the way you approach the unknown. You may stumble, you may fall. But every step you take is a victory over the paralysis that fear tries to impose on you. Courage is an act of defiance against despair. It's saying, I may not have chosen this, but I will face it, and with each act of courage, no matter how small, you build momentum, you discover strengths you didn't know you had. You begin to understand that chaos is not the end, it's a beginning. It's the moment where you stop waiting for things to return to normal and start creating a new normal, one built on the foundation of your determination and resilience. The beauty of courage is that it's contagious. The more you practice it, the more it grows within you. The more you face chaos head on, the less power it holds over you. It doesn't mean you'll never feel fear again. It means you'll learn to carry that fear with you, letting it fuel your progress rather than halt it. And in doing so, you transform yourself, becoming someone who can not only survive chaos, but thrive in its midst. Letting go is one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do. Yet it's also one of the most vital. There's a paradox in holding on the tighter you cling to something that's no longer meant for you, the more it weighs you down. It's natural to resist letting go. The things we lose often feel like pieces of ourselves, relationships, dreams, or even identities we spent years building. Releasing them can feel like betrayal, as though we're abandoning something sacred. But the truth is, holding on too tightly can prevent you from stepping into the life that's waiting for you. Growth demands space, and sometimes what's lost is what clears the room for new possibilities to take root. It's hard to see that when you're in the midst of grief or confusion. You look at what's gone and feel only its absence, its void. But over time, if you allow yourself to loosen your grip on the past, you begin to notice what's been quietly waiting to emerge. It might be a new opportunity, a deeper understanding of yourself, or even a path you never would have considered if you'd stayed anchored to what was. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or devaluing what you've lost. It doesn't mean erasing its importance or pretending it didn't shape you. On the contrary, it's about honoring it, fully recognizing its impact, its lessons, and then accepting that its role in your life has ended. It's acknowledging that while it was a part of your journey, it's no longer part of your destination. This acceptance isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. It's a declaration that you value your growth enough to release what no longer serves it. The act of letting go is often mistaken for giving up, but they couldn't be more different. Giving up is surrendering to defeat. Letting go is making a conscious choice to move forward. It's not about losing, it's about gaining the freedom to pursue what's next. It's about understanding that clinging to the past doesn't change it. It only keeps you stuck in a moment that's already passed. Think of it like a tree shedding its leaves in autumn. To the outside world, it might look like the tree is losing something essential, but the tree isn't dying, it's preparing for renewal. It's making room for fresh growth, for new life to emerge in the spring. The same principle applies to you. Letting go allows you to shed what no longer aligns with your path, so you can focus on nurturing the potential that lies ahead. It's not an easy process, and it's not one that happens overnight. It takes courage to release your grip on something that feels familiar, even if it's holding you back. But as you let go, you create space for healing, space for possibility, and space for transformation. And in that space, you'll find the freedom to grow into the person you're meant to be. When loss or hardship strikes, it's natural to feel like the world has taken something from you. In those moments, the question inevitably arises, why did this happen? Why now? Why me? These questions, though understandable, often lead us down a path of bitterness, resentment, and disillusionment. They trap us in a cycle of questioning the fairness of life, as though life owes us something, as if we are entitled to never experience pain or disappointment. But this kind of thinking, while instinctual, keeps us stuck. The truth is that life doesn't owe us anything, and what it offers is not always what we expect or desire. It offers something far more powerful, the opportunity to choose how we respond. The idea that life is inherently unfair is a harsh reality, but it's also a liberating one. Because when you accept that life's unfairness isn't something to be resented, but something to be understood, you free yourself from the grip of constant disappointment. Life doesn't guarantee us anything, but it does give us the tools to navigate it. And when you stop expecting life to be fair, you begin to realize that unfairness is not a sentence, it's a challenge, a test of character, a chance to redefine what you value and how you move forward. In the face of adversity, you have the opportunity to transform your perspective. Instead of seeing loss or hardship as an injustice, see it as an invitation to grow, to adapt, to evolve. Life isn't about being shielded from hardship, it's about learning to navigate it with grace and strength. The unfairness of life isn't something to be feared, it's something to be embraced as a part of the human condition. It's how we respond to life's unpredictability, to its cruelty or indifference. That defines us. When you stop waiting for life to give you what you think you deserve, you free yourself from the expectation of comfort. You stop clinging to the idea that things should be easy, that you should always be rewarded for your efforts. And you start embracing the fact that growth comes through challenge. When life doesn't go as planned, when it doesn't feel fair, that's when your true character is revealed, not in how much you can endure, but in how you respond to the unfairness with resilience, with grace, and with purpose. Rather than seeing unfairness as something to fight against, see it as an opportunity to find new paths. Life doesn't have to be fair to be meaningful. In fact, sometimes it's precisely because life isn't fair that we discover the deepest parts of ourselves, that we learn what we're truly capable of. The unfairness of life might feel like a burden, but it can also be a powerful catalyst for change. It forces you to redefine your relationship with pain, with loss, and with your own expectations. Instead of resisting the unfairness, let it push you forward. Allow it to challenge your assumptions, to test your limits, and to deepen your understanding of what it means to live fully. In doing so, you transform from someone who passively waits for life to be fair into someone who actively seeks meaning, growth, and purpose in whatever life hands you. At some point, you'll find yourself standing at the crossroads of despair and possibility. It's inevitable life will throw you a curveball, something so jarring that it leaves you questioning everything you thought you knew about yourself and your place in the world. In these moments, when you're at your lowest, it may feel like there's nothing left to hold on to, and the future may appear bleak, even irrelevant. But in these moments, something remarkable happens. You have the power to choose how you move forward. The question isn't whether or not you will face hardship, because you will. The question is, how will you choose to rise? It's easy to get lost in the weight of your struggles, to let them define you, to allow them to overshadow everything else. But there's another option. You can decide to use your pain as a springboard. You can choose to take that burden, that feeling of being overwhelmed, and transform it into fuel for the next phase of your life. This power to choose, to redirect your energy, to refocus your mind and spirit on something more meaningful, this is the ultimate strength. It's not about pretending everything is fine or that the hurt doesn't matter. It's about acknowledging that you have control over how you respond to what's been taken from you. Life may strip away the things you love, but it cannot strip away your ability to choose your next step. You can choose to remain stuck, trapped in your pain, or you can choose to rise, to rebuild, and to move forward with the wisdom and strength that only comes from having walked through the fire. There's an incredible power in knowing that your future is not dictated by the circumstances you face in this moment. Yes, you might feel lost, uncertain, even broken, but those feelings do not define your end. They are simply the markers of a transformation that is happening, whether you see it or not. Sometimes the most profound changes in life come from the darkest moments, the moments when you are forced to confront yourself, to question everything, and to find a new path forward. Choosing to rise doesn't mean you won't feel pain. It doesn't mean you won't struggle. It means you acknowledge the struggle, embrace the discomfort, and decide that the story you're telling yourself won't be one of defeat. Instead, it will be a story of strength, of resilience, and of relentless perseverance. You may not know exactly how you will make it through, but that's okay. The very act of deciding to rise is the first step toward finding the answers, toward forging a path when none seems clear. The real question is not whether you will face loss, pain, or failure, because those things are certain. The real question is, will you let those things define you? Will you let them keep you in the darkness, or will you choose to step into the light? Will you allow yourself to grow, to rebuild, to discover new purpose in the wake of what's been lost? The power to move forward is within you, even when everything around you seems to be falling apart. You may not have control over what's gone, but you have complete control over what comes next. And that ultimately is the most empowering realization of all. In the face of loss, pain, and uncertainty, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, to believe that what has been taken from you is irreparable. But remember, this life is not defined by what you lose, but by how you choose to rise from it. Every challenge, every setback is an opportunity to rebuild stronger, wiser, and more resilient. You have the power within you to reshape your narrative, to decide that the pain you carry will not hold you back, but propel you forward. You are not the sum of your losses, but the strength and wisdom you gain from them. Embrace the uncertainty, the chaos, and the unfairness of life, for they are the crucibles in which your true potential is forged. The future is yours to create. And with each step, no matter how small, you are writing a new story, one of growth, perseverance, and ultimate triumph. So move forward with courage, knowing that no matter what you face, you have everything within you to rise, rebuild, and reclaim your life.